race against time, 38-year-old Thomas Bart Whitaker's final days are ticking down on death row.
Few are as brutal and diabolical as the Whitaker murders that took place in Sugar Land, Texas some 15 years ago.
This happened in 2003, but more than a decade later, Kent Whitaker says his son is a changed man, a man he's forgiven.
It was supposed to be a night of celebration. December 10th, 2003. The evening glowed softly over Sugar Land, Texas. The Whitaker family, Kent, Tricia, and their two sons, Bart and Kevin, were on their way home from dinner. They had just celebrated Bart's college graduation, a milestone every parent dreams of. Kent, the father, was smiling proudly behind the wheel. Tricia, the warm-hearted mother, chatted about future plans. Kevin, the younger brother, teased Bart about becoming a real adult now. Laughter filled the car. It was an ordinary, beautiful moment, the kind that seems timeless, until it wasn't. As the family stepped into their home, the world shifted. Within minutes, that laughter would turn into screams, and the picture-perfect Whitaker family would shatter forever, because someone was waiting inside, someone they trusted, someone they loved. Thomas Bartlett. Whitaker, or Bart as everyone called him, was the kind of son most parents would be proud of. Tall, charming, intelligent, with a knack for making people like him. To Kent and Tricia, he was everything a parent could hope for. A bright young man about to graduate from Sam Houston State University with honors. The Whitakers were a close-knit, church-going family. Kent ran a construction business. Tricia was known for her kindness. Their younger son, Kevin, was bright and talented, following in his brother's footsteps. Bart's graduation dinner was the culmination of years of hard work and sacrifice, or so his parents thought. But behind the smile, Bart was living a lie. He had never graduated. He hadn't attended classes in years. And that diploma his family was celebrating? It didn't exist. Bart had been spinning a web of lies for months, building an illusion that was about to crumble. And in his mind, there was only one way to stop it from collapsing, by erasing the people who loved him most. Bart Whitaker didn't just wake up one morning and decide to kill his family. The thought had been brewing quietly for years, like a dark storm forming on a calm horizon. At first it started small, lies about grades, about money, about missed assignments. But every lie needed another to cover it. And soon Bart wasn't just pretending to be a good student. He was pretending to be a version of himself that didn't exist. When his family praised him, part of him felt trapped. The deeper his lies went, the harder it became to confess. To the outside world, Bart appeared collected and polite. But inside, resentment and shame twisted together into something dangerous. He felt cornered, like an actor forced to keep performing a role he couldn't escape. Then came the breaking point. Bart realized the moment his family discovered the truth, that he hadn't graduated, everything would collapse. He'd lose their pride, their trust, maybe even their love. So he began to plan a way out, not to disappear, but to destroy. Bart's plan was methodical, obsessive, and cold. He began talking to friends about hypothetical crimes, asking odd questions about weapons, burglaries, even murder for hire. Some brushed it off as dark humor. Others sensed something wrong. Eventually, he convinced two people to join his scheme. Stephen Champagne as the getaway driver and Chris Brashear as the trigger man. Bart promised them money and freedom, painting the murders as a quick, easy job. But to him, it was far more than that. It was control, the ultimate manipulation. In his notes, he referred to his plan as a mission. He drew sketches of his house, mapped out entry points, and detailed how the murders should unfold. He even rehearsed his own injury, a self-inflicted wound that would make him appear as another victim. Every detail was in place. The night of celebration was ready to become the night of betrayal. The Whitakers left their favorite restaurant, Papado Seafood Kitchen, just after 8:30 p.m. The air was cool and calm. Kent drove, humming along to the radio. Tricia held her husband's hand. Bart sat beside his younger brother, Kevin, joking about plans after graduation. There was love in that car. Real, warm, unfiltered love. And Bart knew it was the last time he'd ever feel it. As they approached their home in Sugar Land's quiet suburban neighborhood, the porch light glowed faintly. Bart had made sure it would. Inside the house, in the dark, Chris Brashear waited. His hands trembled as he held the gun, the same gun Bart had given him. At 9 p.m., the family stepped through the front door. Kevin was the first inside. He barely had time to react before a shot rang out. The bullet struck his chest. Tricia screamed, rushing forward. Another shot. She fell instantly. Kent was hit next, once in the arm, then in the chest. He stumbled but refused to fall, desperately calling out for his family. And then Bart entered, just seconds later. In the chaos, he was shot too, but only in the arm. A clean graze, exactly as planned. The silence that followed was unbearable. Kent crawled toward his wife, trying to stop the bleeding. His vision blurred as he saw Bart slumped nearby, appearing wounded. Police later said the scene looked like a slaughter. Blood on the walls, broken glass on the floor, the faint echo of gunfire still ringing in the night. When authorities arrived, Bart played his role perfectly. The grieving, injured son. He cried, he shouted, he asked, why? And no one suspected a thing. At first, the police believed what they saw. A loving family attacked after a night of celebration, a random home invasion, maybe a burglary gone wrong. But soon, the evidence began to whisper a different story. The front door showed no signs of forced entry. The alarm system hadn't been tampered with. Nothing was stolen. Not jewelry, not electronics, not even cash. Detectives began to suspect the attacker had known the family, or at least had access to the house. Then came the behavioral clues. Bart's demeanor struck them as odd. He didn't seem traumatized. He didn't ask many questions about his mother or brother. And when officers spoke to him, his grief felt rehearsed, like a performance hitting all the expected emotional beats. As they dug deeper, cracks began to show. Bart's friends revealed strange conversations. Bart talking about faking his own death, starting over, and living off insurance money. One friend even recalled Bart asking how much a hit would cost. The turning point came when investigators looked into Bart's education records. There was no degree, no classes, no graduation, everything, from the celebration dinner to the stories he told, had been a lie. The police brought Kent in to share their findings. The father sat in stunned silence as detectives explained that his surviving son was the prime suspect in his wife and younger son's murders. Kent refused to believe it. He defended Bart, insisting there had to be a mistake. But then, a tip came in. Someone claiming Bart had tried to hire him for a murder plot months earlier, targeting the same people. The illusion shattered. The perfect son had become the architect of his family's destruction. But before police could arrest him, Bart vanished. One night, he simply disappeared. No calls, no trail, no trace. For months, Kent clung to hope that his surviving son had run out of fear, not guilt. The truth was far darker. Bart had crossed the border into Mexico, living under a false identity as Rudy Rios. He grew a beard, changed his accent, and started over working odd jobs, blending into the crowd. He lived there for over a year, building a new life while his father recovered, both physically and emotionally, from the unimaginable loss. Then in 2005, after months of searching, a private investigator hired by Kent tracked Bart down in Mexico. Even after knowing the truth, Kent did something extraordinary. He begged the authorities not to execute his son. Despite the betrayal, despite losing his wife and younger son, Kent's love for Bart refused to die. When Bart was finally extradited back to Texas, the courtroom became a stage of grief and disbelief. The prosecution laid out the chilling details, the planning, the lies, the manipulation, and the cold precision with which Bart had executed his plan. His accomplice, Chris Brashear, testified against him in exchange for a lighter sentence. The jury took little time to deliberate. Thomas Bartlett Whitaker was sentenced to death for the murders of his mother and brother. But the trial didn't end the story. Kent, the surviving victim, stood before the court and pleaded for his son's life. He said, "I have forgiven my son. I don't want to lose him too." It was a moment that silenced the room. A father's mercy against the backdrop of horror. For over a decade, Bart sat on death row in Texas. He became a model inmate, calm, articulate, reflective. He wrote letters, read philosophy, and expressed remorse for what he had done. But many doubted his sincerity. Was it redemption or just another mask? Kent continued to campaign for his son's life, appearing on television, writing letters to officials, and visiting Bart regularly. And then in February 2018, something unprecedented happened. Just 40 minutes before his scheduled execution, Texas Governor Greg Abbott commuted Bart's sentence from death to life imprisonment, citing Kent's forgiveness and the unusual nature of the case. It was the first clemency Abbott had ever granted. Bart's life was spared, but freedom would never come. Today, Kent Whitaker lives with the weight of loss and love intertwined. He lost his wife and younger son, victims of a crime his surviving son orchestrated. Yet he chose compassion over vengeance. In interviews, Kent has said he doesn't excuse what Bart did, but he believes forgiveness freed him from being a prisoner of hate. Bart, now serving life without parole, spends his days in a Texas prison, writing, reading, reflecting on the family he destroyed. The story of Thomas Bartlett Whitaker isn't just about murder. It's about illusion, deceit, and the fragile lines between love and destruction. How does someone become capable of destroying the very people who loved them most? Was Bart driven by fear, by ego, or by something far more chilling? A lack of empathy masked by charm. And what does it say about forgiveness when a father can love the son who took everything from him? In the end, perhaps that's what makes this story so haunting, because it forces us to ask the hardest question of all. How far would love go, even when it's betrayed by blood? Some stories don't end with justice or revenge. They end with mercy. And sometimes that mercy is the heaviest sentence of all. If this story left you thinking, stay with us. More untold stories, more truths that hide behind the headlines. Coming soon. Until then, take care of those you love, and never underestimate the secrets that live within a perfect smile.